So we saw in last class that who we are changes as a person, and then our relationship with the divine also changes. Um, what and ideally we evolve. And what do we mean by evolving? Is that we become less needy. So I use the word needy in a non-judgmental way. So usually we use the word needy as somebody who's high maintenance or demanding or highly insecure, and then we have to fuss about them. But just the fact that we have expectations can be considered as a need. So I'm using the word in a very different way. Okay. So, and we have expectations of the people we love. We have expectations of how we want life to turn out. We have expectations of what we consider to be just normal decency. So, if I say, how are you? Then just normal decency, you reply me. So, and it's, but it's in a way, it's our desire that we replied. And sometimes it's even a need in terms of we feel validated, we feel acknowledged, we feel relevant. So this needs, all our needs, is what I'm referring to as our neediness, which is not the regular way in which we would use the word. Evolution is this decreases. So what we want back from other people decreases, and that's evolution. So our relationship with the Lord, our relationship with God is, we have demands even from God. He should be, she should be looking after us. How did they allow, or it allow, this to happen? How did they allow COVID to happen? How do they allow people to die? How did it allow? And so we have this demand, we have an expectation. And we should be looked after. And so often when somebody passes away, I'll get asked the question, but what did I do wrong? We didn't do anything wrong. People die. No, but other people still have their father, mother, spouse, child, and I don't have mine. What was it that I did wrong? And so we have this, even with our relationship to God, it's like, my life is unfair and it's your fault. Very often, that's what I'm calling here as a need. We have a need to be looked after in a certain way. We have a need that things be a certain way. Desire, but it can be quite deep within, and so it's seen as a need. So this reduces. So when we see God as someone like almost like a puppeteer, then a lot of blame can go to God for things that go wrong. And there can be a sense of unfair, but also there can be the sense of disempowerment, because it's happening to me, right? But as we evolve, these demands, these expectations, these desires reduce. It's almost like we come to understand that it's not happening to me as much as it is happening. Yeah. Something like, I don't know if this is a good example, but something like if in the ocean a fish is swimming and a current carries it, to another part of the ocean. In one way of seeing God as the ocean and the fish as all of us, it's like God put me here. Yeah. Like I was swept away and I couldn't do anything about it, and here I am. Whereas in understanding, there's, well, currents move, and the current brought me here, but I'm still in the ocean. And so now that I'm here in the ocean only, but whereas previously it would be, but this is not where I want to be, and I'm missing people, and it's the wrong place, and it's the wrong time, and it's in, so there's the maturing is the acceptance of it just what it is, rather than it being choreographed and directed and the rest of it by me. So the more demands we have, the more desires we have, the more expectations we have, the more we need God to fulfill them. And of course, that's not God's job. So then the more we get disappointed. And so the less expectations, desires, demands we have, the more free we are to see what's there and to recognize the divinity playing in and through all things. Because it's not so much a doing, God is not so much a doing, but a being and in living. And so it's experienced in the smallest of things and in all things. I think last week I mentioned the dust playing in sunlight. Did I mention it in this class? No, in another class. It's in all small and all big things. Okay, so we go from Advaita, this needing to be heard, seen, understood, this needing to have a sense of well-being being provided for me, to it's okay, whatever it is, as it is, even if it's not exactly what I would consider to be ideal. Okay, so now we continue with chapter number 11.
I love you. Chapter 11. Stature is the charm of a man. Character is the charm in the stature. Knowledge is the charm in character. And forgiveness is the glory of knowledge. Beloved children, Chitananda Rupa Shivaham Shivaham Namaskaram. We had discussed in an earlier letter that there is a gulf of difference between the lower love, sneha, and the higher love, prema. The highest love is when we seek, discover, and experience our essential oneness with the very substance of truth, the Lord. It is called devotion, prema bhakti. The various shades of love are unconsciously and irresistibly practiced by all in order to escape the stifling sense of separateness in us and its consequent fears and despairs. These drive each one of us into neurotic conditions of unutterable sorrows. There is no exception here. This is universally applicable to all. But so long as our love is objective, it is, even at its best, very unsatisfactory. Then our love depends upon the nature and quality, texture and behavior, fulfillment and use of the object of love. It is but a conditional love, conditioned by our attitude and the nature of the object that we love. This is a slave love, not a free love. If the situation or the mood changes, either in the bosom of the lover or in the beloved, the wondrous thrill of love between them gets lost. In fact, in such a case, the love is not pure, for where love has a desire to be fulfilled, a gain to be had, a purpose to be served, then it is lust. The algebra of love says pure love, prema, plus desire, raga, equals lust, kama. Therefore, it becomes evidently clear what pure love is. Pure love, prema, equals lust, kama, minus desire, raga. Hence, Krishna describes himself as kama raga vivarjitam. I am lust without desire. This desire prompted love is an octopus love. The beloved is sucked dry and destroyed by the lust in the lover. And the lover, for all his love, gets only the hatred of the beloved as his reward, and the subjective punishment of added restlessness in himself. Never can he find satisfaction in such a love. He seeks love, but he will never discover it. He, in his lust, searches for the many in the one. In true love, prema, there are no desires to be satisfied, no demands to be met, no vulgar expectations to be fulfilled. It is pure prema, which is its own fulfillment, its own reward. To love thus with all our heart is the privilege of our grown-up human stature, our achieved evolutionary growth. Narada describes such an all-inspiring, self-expanding love as anuraga. This is the search for the one in the many. And the Devarshi, without mincing matters, openly confesses that such pure love is seen manifest only in some rare bosoms. Each lover has his own specific way of expressing his love. It all depends upon the psychological type to which the individual belongs. There are some among us who love in their world the father more than anyone else. Others love the mother more. Some love their friends, yet others love their master or boss. These are the various attitudes in love: paternal, maternal, brother, slave, master, friend. These represent some of the more prominent attitudes of love commonly met within society. The secret love attitude and the wifely attitude are also not uncommon. All these attitudes can be encouraged. Each one of them can develop this love potential in us by loving others in our own particular characteristic attitude of love. Once the restraining dam that holds our love in our bosom is burst, we shall be surprised at our own infinite capacity to love. We shall then find our fuller existence in life through that all-consuming total love for all. In this grand scheme of self-expansion, gained through the discovery of our own identity with others, there is no outer limit. There is no power to restrain it, except our own desires or passions. Therefore, until we purify our own hearts, we will not be efficient instruments to give love. Devotion to Sri Narayana is also a means to cultivate love within. to hear his glories, to sing about his beauties, to reflect upon his love, to meditate upon his presence within us are some of the ways by which a devotee grows in his love for him. The Lord is not only a heaven residing, otherworldly Lord, but he is right here, everywhere. When out of gold some ornaments are made, all such ornaments are nothing but gold. When the universe has emerged from the Lord, who was before all creation, everything in the universe can only be his essence alone. To recognize him in and through the world and to adore him with our sincere and active love for all living creatures is the highest puja, the noblest prayer. Please, children, don't misunderstand from what I just now said that the world is God. The world is not God. The world has God. Seek him through love. Search for him through your devotion. Invoke him with prayer. And finally, meet him in your meditation. No single individual is God, but all are his expressions. Your mother's hair is not your mother, but it is her own extension. Your leg is not you, but you are in your leg. Milk is not butter, but milk has butter. Now do you understand? As butter is in milk, so is Lord Parameshwara in the world. As we churn and take the butter from the milk, so too, by our love, we must get at the Lord, now playing hide and seek with us all around us. Catch him with your goodness, cheer, joy, and love for all. To watch for him in the day-to-day play of all the happenings around us is a thrilling game, an endless joy, and a lifelong entertainment. Thereafter, joy is no joy, sorrow is no sorrow. In playing a game, the excitement of the game is its own reward. We may fall. We don't worry. We may be knocked down and even get hurt. We don't care. We may win. It is of no consequence. We may lose. It doesn't matter. If we had a good, hard, and bright game, that in itself is the real thrill of the game. To one who knows how to give love in life, to him, all his life becomes an exciting game. Swami Chinmayananda, Uttarkarshi, 5th October, 1968.
Okay. There were about 5 different topics that Gurudev covered. The first topic was attachment versus love. The second topic was the different rasas in which we can express devotion. The third topic was Navida Bhakti, the 9 steps of devotion. The fourth topic was expression of God in the world. And the fifth topic was the nature of God, which we're not going to do. We'll do the first 4. Okay. Maybe we'll do next week. We'll see my mood next week. We're definitely not going to get to it this week. Okay, topic 1, attachment. So Kama Raga Vivarjitaha is a verse that comes out in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7. And there in that verse, it's literally talking about lust as the sexual act, and that the Lord is present in all things, but in that act of procreation, there is divinity because of creation. but um, the respect and the intimacy and the connection between the two people can be very divine and beautiful, or it can be very about the body and seeking pleasure. And so when it's only about pleasure seeking, then it falls under lust. And so here we can expand. Gurudev usually uses the word in the wider scope of the meaning. When it's about pleasure seeking primarily, then lust gets used. So it can be towards food, it can be towards, well, all sense objects, but I think we experience it most with food and the physical desire of sex. But so here, if we see it in the wider scope of just wanting pleasure and not just physical, pleasure can also be being praised, being admired, being, charmed and flattered. And so we enjoy all of that. We feel it's positive attention. So when there is any kind of desire seeking included in my loving, then that love is diluted by this emotion. I think we've spoken about it earlier in the book, right? That love is there and then things get mixed up with love. Fear get mixed up with love. We spoke about that definitely, I know. And desire gets mixed up with love. So I love, and the nature of love is I give and I rejoice in the person's happiness and well-being and success. And then, but wait, you should do that back. Like it shouldn't be one-way traffic. You should love me back. And so then that's the first desire that creeps in, which already dilutes love, unfortunately. It's very rare that we have love just in its essence, because it gets very quickly. This desire creeps in so quickly, unless we're so incredibly alert to it. Okay, then that's still okay. Human nature, I mean, it's not, but chalo, since we all doing it, still we can be aware and I have desire. But what gets worse is somewhere in our thinking, we associate that I will only be happy if you love me back. So wanting you to love me back already not so great, but take care. The desire arises in our heart. We can see it arise. We can say, shh, no need. And, not give it as much attention. Or we can see it rise in our heart and think, oh, that's interesting. And then that's fine. But the desire arises in our heart, and then we think, if I don't get it, I won't be happy. I can't. This is what we tend to do. Can't be happy. And so maybe I have an amazing job. Maybe I have an incredible house with a beautiful view. Maybe I have 300 friends who all sincerely like me. Maybe I have perfect health, but I am miserable. Why? You don't love me back. And I can't enjoy this cake. I can't enjoy the wind. I can't enjoy music. I can't enjoy anything because you don't love me back. When it becomes that, that's attachment. So desire already diffuses the beauty and the purity of love and weakens the very strength of love. Because when I love, I'm strong. I'm incredibly strong when I love. I don't know if I said it in this series of talks, but it's one of my favorite examples. I had heard once a mom had parked her car on a slope, and they have so much to deal with, these moms. They have to take out the stroller, they have to take out the baby bag, they have to, so many little gizmos when you have just this one little kid. The kid probably is carrying a toy, and then, there's all the rest of it. So the mom in the process, and maybe there was even groceries added with that. I'm not sure what the exact scenario was. The mom was taking out everything from the car, took out the kid, and you expect the kid to stay where you put them, but she turned around to take out something else from the car. And kids do this in a matter of seconds. They disappear. And where had the kid gone? Under the car. And unfortunately, in all this hamagama, she had not put the park brake on, and the car was on a slope. And so it started rolling, and the kid's leg was caught. Well, the car hadn't rolled over it yet. It had just gotten to the leg. And so there's this howl of pain because the car is going to roll over the kid's leg. The mom suddenly realizes what's going on, and within a fraction of a second, lifts the entire car up with one hand, pulls the kid out with the other hand. Now that kid is perfectly safe. Pick up the car. She can't pick it up. But in that moment, the need, the necessity, probably lots of hormonal rush also, right? I'm sure all of that added. But even if there wasn't all the hormonal rush and the stress of it all, with just love makes us incredibly strong. And then desire already weakens that. And attachment, well, nothing can delete love. But from where we are seeing, it's almost as though attachment takes over. And so I'm not even feeling love anymore, even though I have it. When attachment is strong, I tend to feel the attachment more than the love. And it's very restless because it's dependent, right? I need you to love me back to be happy. I'm extremely dependent. And when I'm dependent, I'm going to be insecure. It's but natural. So minus the desire. And then you free of the attachment. So easy. So easy, just minus the desire. So what we have to understand is maybe we can't minus the desire. That's why I said the desire arises, and it's kind of natural human tendency for desires to arise in our heart. But what we can do is get rid of this equation. Which equation? The equation that we come up with in our head that says, I can't be happy unless you love me back. And sometimes it's not even you have to love me back. You have to love me back in a specific way. So even you loving me back's not enough. And so what I've done is I've made my window of happiness so narrow that I'm not experiencing happiness. Because like I said, because that's when I'll be happy, then I can have so many other things, but I don't have that. Because we don't always get it. So attachment is, I remove this, and literally it's a belief. It's not a truth, because we can be happy. We can be happy if they don't love us back. We can be happy if they don't love us back in a particular way. And we can be happy even if they don't know we exist. Like with all these movie stars, rock stars, we're perfectly happy. They don't know we exist. We adore them. I mean, I don't quite get it, but it's amazing how much people can have for a sports ideal or a singer or an actor or someone that they they become an icon for whatever I need them to be. Very often it's got very little to do with the person. It's just what I need them to be. And so we find that people have incredible amount of passion for someone they may never ever meet. So I can actually be happy without them knowing I exist. Of course, in our intimate relationships, we'll say, no, we want them to love us back. Yeah, we can want them to love us back. In the truest sense, give up even that, but I'll give discount. We can want them to love us back, but we can understand that we can be happy even if they don't. So sometimes they love us back and we fine, we're happy. I'll only be happy when they love us back and they love us back. Yay. Then attachment goes further, because attachment doesn't just stop there. Attachment gets worse. Like you got your first condition met, then you'll expand on your conditions. Now you have to do as I say. Or you have to be friends with who I approve of, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? And then we become really controlling in different ways, maybe not overtly, maybe very subtly, but we do. We want it our way. So then attachment becomes it becomes so much about doing. Attachment really does become so much about doing, whereas love's not about doing. Love's about being and freeness of expression and joy in the moment and spontaneity. Like really spirituality, if you think about what spirituality is, it's completely spontaneous. Because moment to moment, the world is changing, moment to moment, I am changing. And what's in this moment the most appropriate or the most necessary or the most humorous or the most beautiful, it will be spontaneous. And so you would have experienced this, things where you just spontaneously said and did, and then it was such a nice day. And then when you try to recreate something by planning it, it doesn't quite work, because you can't plan people's moods and you can't plan conversation and you can't plan how we're going to feel. But in that moment, we know how that person's feeling, how I'm feeling, what the mood is, and we can say something that can diffuse a mood or enhance a mood or create a sense of warmth and connection. And so when there's attachment, this living in the moment and living spontaneously goes away. And so it really takes away from the beauty of love, and it takes away the amount of joy and happiness we are feeling from love, whether we're receiving it or giving it. Okay, so we've spoken about that earlier in the book when we've spoken about lower love. So done, tick. The second one is the rasas in devotion. So this may be not so true in our interactions with each other. In our interactions with each other, it's fairly clear, right? A parental relationship will be with somebody who is that generation more often than not. Of course, we can have a nurturing relationship with someone who's our own age, or sometimes someone who's younger than us nurtures us. And then friends tend to be, well, it's a broader age group as we grow older, and then we tend to be nurturing towards people who are younger. It's not hard, fast, but generally speaking. But with the Lord is all relationships and any relationship. And so I choose my relationship. And this is very important in bhakti. It's very important I create a relationship with the Lord. And so I have to choose what's the relationship. So is it going to be parent-child? Is it going to be friend? Is it going to be beloved? And so people have beliefs about which one's stronger. Actually, whatever you feel is stronger is stronger. Yeah. But some people will say, no, when you love the beloved, that high and that rush and that intensity, there's nothing as strong as that. That's the best kind of love. Okay, if that's what you feel is the best kind of love, then love the Lord that way. And other people will say, gosh, no, that's too much work. Like, well, they love me back. Do they love me back? That all that constant excitement of that. It's very, no. Father loves child. It's all very peaceful. It's safe, it's sound, it's guaranteed. This is the kind of love I want. If that's the kind of love you want, that's the kind of relationship you create. And so, in fact, this is unique to Hinduism in today's world. In most other traditions, God is seen as a figure of authority of some form of the other, parent, master, even guru. The word used in the book is boss, but in today's world, we say mentor. And there's people who have incredible love and regard for mentor, and that person really is the most significant in their lives. And so we do have this person that I can look up to. It's not my parents. It's this person who has taught me and guided me. So that's the traditional relationship with God, right? It's a person of somewhat more authority than me. Doesn't work for everyone. So there's a human tendency to rebel against authority. And so if I'm very identified with that aspect of myself, like I never quite outgrew the teenage rebelliousness, then authority figure doesn't work. I'm not going to like this God telling me what to do. And so then the relationship, it's not a loving, strong, beautiful one. There's going to always be this little no that comes out. And so here the relationship of beloved and friend work really well. Then God becomes my beloved or God becomes my friend. And then that's the relationship I have with him or her. And there's a lot of literature on this. So in Devi Upasana, many bhaktas see her as beloved. And, incredibly beautiful and incredibly enticing and incredibly, what's the word? Desirable. And so they pining for her the way you would pine for someone you fall in love with. And the other gender is usually Krishna, but also Shiva. Right? There's this sense of, and whichever one, Krishna or Shiva, sometimes Ram also, but not as often, but definitely Krishna, because gopis and Radha and all those stories are of pining and love and besotted. Oh my gosh, besotted. Like more than Leela, Majnu, more than Romeo, Juliet. It's Radha Krishna's love is so besotted. And same with Parvati desiring Shiva. And so there's many others also, not just Parvati, who have that yearning to be with Shiva. In fact, if you read Shiv Puran, and I highly recommend you don't, it's very confusing. It's like that another one in love with him and another one in love with him. And it's like, okay, enough. You're supposed to be a scripture, yeah, not romance novel. So, but there's a lot of romance. So what am I saying? If this is what helps me have connect, then this is how I should think of the Lord. And for some people, even that doesn't work because some heartache, Like if you love them too much, they break your heart. No need. Which happens? Who hasn't had their heart broken? So some people prefer to just see some God as a child. And I will love God. And child will always love back because they're too small to know better. Very good. And so some have that nurturing devotion for the Lord. That's why I said this is unique to Hinduism. These rasas, they called rasas, the different flavors. Rasa literally means flavor. And these are the different flavors that love takes. It's love, but it takes the flavor of maternal, paternal, beloved, friend, or being a child, or nurturing the child. And then, or somebody who is so just awestruck by a mentor, guru, master. So what's nice to know here is it's all still love, right? Something like if you take chocolate and then you put flavorings in, this one has nuts, this one has raspberries, this one has coffee, this one has chili, because that's the newest thing, right? Or is there something new after chili? There is? Huh. So, and no, we don't put alcohol because we're the ashram. No alcohol in the chocolate. So it's still chocolate. It just takes different flavors. But the flavor doesn't take away from the chocolate. The chocolate is still chocolate. So the rasas of devotion is the entertainment part, but love is still love. And so for us to bring it back to everyday transactional living, the better we get at creating the relationship with actual people in our lives, the better we understand what that relationship is like when you have that closeness with God. Like if actually in life, my friendships are not so great, then I feel God's my friend, but that friendship's also not going to be so great. So so choose the one in your life that's really good. And then create that relationship with the Lord. And then also improve the actual relationships we have with people so that we can understand how beautiful the relationship can be. And then we can have that same relationship with the Lord. And so these are the rasas. And there's so many stories. I can tell you so many stories. Do I want to tell you stories? There's not that much time to do stories. You want stories? I'm thinking if I should do stories. So examples, I can give examples even if I don't do the whole story. Markandeya is a kid. The story comes in Shiv Puran. And he was given, the parents were given a boon that they could have a child who was brilliant and beautiful and would only live 7 years. Or they could have a very ordinary child who would live a long life. And these parents chose an amazing kid who would live only for 7 years. Obviously, when they chose that, they thought they'd be strong enough after 7 years. Which parent's going to be strong enough after 7 years? Especially because the kid's so amazing. Right? That was the boon. The kid would be everything you could possibly want, but he'll only live 7 years. So now they've got this kid who is everything they could possibly want. And it's about 6 years and 9 months, and the parents are now freaking out. And so Markandeya one day overhears their conversation when they saying, when he turns 7, we're going to lose him. And so he finds out more and he realizes that the boon is he only has 7 years to live. And then thinking what to do, he remembers that Lord Shiva controls death and cannot be touched if you worship Lord Shiva and you chant the Trayambakam mantra. And so Markandeya starts worshipping a shivling. And so sweet is a child's worship. You know, I think that's one of the privileges of teaching Bal Vihar, when they actually close their eyes with so much earnestness and sincerity and say the prayer. Oh my God, it's adorable. It's the innocence and the love and the faith that you can see in a little child's face when they pray is divinity itself. And so you can imagine this Markandeya with so much faith praying to Lord Shiva. And it comes close to his 7th birthday, and he can feel the Yamadutas appearing. Now that's how beautiful his mind is, that he can see the Yamadutas. Like, I mean, they appear and we don't see them. But, you know, the innocence of childhood, he probably really did have that purity. And so he hugs the shivling like you would hug a parent. You know, like sometimes the mom wants to go out to get stuff from the supermarket and the kid literally is like, no, you got to go. I don't know if you've seen it. It's so cute. Also, it breaks your heart. I've seen it when parents have had to travel also, and the kid holds that parent weeping. It's hard for anyone to see. Like, I'm not even a parent. I don't even know the kid sometimes. And it's like, no, don't. That's too painful to break a kid's heart. So Markandeya is hugging the shivling. And the Yamaduts throw the noose over Markandeya. And Shiva appears out of the shivling. It's unfortunately a bit violent. He kicks the Yamaduts and they fly away. The boys always love that part of the story. And he gives Markandeya Chiranjeevi, means he will never die. You know, it's a law. Whoever is born has to die. It's a law. You can't bypass the law, except if you're Lord Shiva. There's only 8 people that have bypassed this law. And Markandeya was one of them. Because he's still alive, is one of them. And so what did he loved Shiva as father, protector. And even the way he hugged that shivling is literally the way you hold on. It's like, no, you can't let anything happen to me. And so the rasa, like if the relationship is there, that bond is so much stronger. So Markandeya has the bhav of seeing whether it's fathers or it's Lord as master. But for Markandeya, it was more father. And like this, there's so many stories in our Puranas of each of the rasas. And one of the steps of the Navida Bhakti, which is the 3rd topic of this chapter. So Navida means 9, and 9 steps of Bhakti. And Gurudev just listed out 3 or 4. I don't think he listed out all 9. So Shravanam, to hear the glories. Kirtanam, to sing the glories. No, Atmani Vedanam is the last one. The meditate to reflect. Actually, there's 2 times that the Navada Bhakti is taught. One time Navada Bhakti is taught by Ramchandraji to Shabri. That's also a beautiful story. The first time Navada Bhakti is taught is by Narsim Avatar to this little boy, Prahlad. And it is so incredibly beautiful, that story. That story is really, really, really one of the top Balvihar favorite stories. So Prahlad is born into a family of Rakshasas. And the king, his father, has declared that nobody should ever worship God. Prahlad, however, is born with incredible devotion for Lord Narayana. And so he praises the Lord outwardly. He does the 9 steps. One of them is praise. So when his father comes to find out that Prahlad is propagating Lord Vishnu, he's furious, like furious, to the point where he tries to kill Prahlad. Like, father trying to kill his own son is definitely Rakshasic quality. The story is really beautiful because no matter what Hiranyakashipu does, Prahlad lives. And it's just grace. Like fire doesn't burn him, snakes don't bite him. He's in an elephant stampede without even as much as getting dust on him. It's like one of those really, really phenomenal stories. And then finally, his father is about to strike him when he says, God is everywhere and he will protect me. And Hiranyakashipu says, is God in this pillar? If you say he's everywhere, is he in this pillar? And Prahlad says, yes. Like there's just a pillar, a marble pillar, stone pillar. In so many pillars in the castle, he's pointed to this one and says, is God here? And Prahlad's 8, and he says, yes, God is in that pillar. And so Hiranyakashipu takes his sword and strikes the pillar to say, if your God's in this pillar, then I can destroy him. Right? That there's this pride and arrogance with which he is doing it. And he, with such force, strikes the pillar. And the entire earth shakes. And from inside the pillar comes Narsim Avatar. The Lord himself comes out of a pillar because Prahlad said, yes, my God is in that pillar. Like already look at the Lord's love for Prahlad. God can make such an entrance any way, which way he wants to. But how does he make his entrance? Prahlad said, I'm in the pillar. I'm in the pillar. Right? And you can see this like when parents, if my child said this, then this is it. If we see this happening in the world around us. So this avatar of Bhagwan is of a lion because long story, why? But never mind the long story. So a lion is ferocious. And I don't know if you've ever seen a lion kill its prey, but it works itself up into a frenzy. Actually, the killing takes a while for the lion to then they tend to walk up and down, like because they're in this frenzy of this having to have killed. The perks of growing up in Africa, I've seen these things. So Narsim Bhagwan has killed Hiranyakashipu, and he's still in this frenzy of having made the kill. And so all the gods in the heavens are shaking with fear because the Lord has taken this incredibly ferocious form and is heaving with, his eyes are red and his, his claws are dripping with the blood from the kill. Then Lakshmi Devi, they all approach, because when father's angry, you go to mother. Everybody approaches Lakshmi Devi and says, calm him down. And Lakshmi Devi is like, no, I'm not going anywhere near him. And Lakshmi Ji tells Prahlad, you go. And Guruji says this so beautifully, that, when that little chunnu munnu of the house comes and crawls on the father's laps and says, Papa, then all the anger will go away. So mother knew what to do. She sent little Prahlad, and he really did. And he wasn't scared. He wasn't scared to go. And again, Guruji says, because the little cub is not scared of the lion. So Prahlad goes, and true enough, the Lord is completely calmed by the presence of this sweet little boy who he has actually taken avatar for. And at that point, he says, Prahlad, ask me for any boon you want. And Prahlad really doesn't have anything to ask for. And Bhagwan's like, but I want to give you something. And Prahlad doesn't know what to ask for. And so Bhagwan praises Prahlad by saying there's 9 forms of devotion. And he sings the Navita Bhakti. And he says, and you have all 9. And so the order given by Narsimha Avatar is different to the order given by Ramchandraji. Okay, let's see how many I can remember. Sing, praise, listen to the kathas of the Lord, which is why I told a katha, because one of the forms of devotion is to listen to the kathas of the Lord. To serve the feet of the Lord, to serve other people, to do puja, to meditate, to, what am I missing? Dasyam. Yeah, that I already said, serve, yeah. Oh, so dasyam is to be a servant, and pada sevanam is to serve the feet. So it actually comes twice. Right? So one is actually serving of the feet of the master itself, and dasyam is basically all the type of work that you can do. So service comes in 2 different forms. And then what's the last one? What's the 9th one? Satsang. Did I say satsang? How could I forget satsang? It's the most important one. Satsang. I don't know if I said it. I didn't say it. Yay! I remembered all 9. Okay. So Navita Bhakti. Now that's just in the teaching of the and both the Navita Bhaktis come in the Bhagavatam. Right? It doesn't come in, although Ramcharitramanas does go through them, but it comes in Bhagavatam in terms of proper scripture. But that's not the only place Bhakti is taught. Bhakti is taught in many places, and there's many ways in which we can do Bhakti, because in the 9 steps, it doesn't talk about these rasas that we just spoke about also. And I guess the most comprehensive piece of Bhakti Shastra that you can find is Bhagavatam. And then some would say Narad Bhakti Sutra, but personally, I think it's Bhagavatam because it's in and through all the different stories. And when Krishna was leaving, where was he going? Back into formless. So he came into the form of Krishna, and then he was going back into formless. And Uddhav was with him, and Uddhav said, how can you leave us? Yeah, I'm not sure if I completely understand this, but there is this sentiment that if you were going to leave, you should never have come. If you were going to stop loving me, you shouldn't have loved me to start with. I hear this often. I don't know if I feel that. Because there's, of course, the sentiment that at least I had a little bit. At least you came. But some people say, no, if you were going to go, you shouldn't have come in the first place. So Uddhav had this sentiment. Uddhav said to Krishna, well, how can you leave? Why'd you come then? Just to leave us. And so Krishna said, okay, I'll stay, but not in this form. I will stay as Santa Mahatma. I will stay as the words of the Bhagavad Gita. I will stay as the Bhagavatam. And so the actual book is worshipped as Krishna. And so bhakti, Bhagavatam, because it's Krishna himself, gives the 9 steps of bhakti. And then this last bit of the chapter is Gurudev is saying that worship the Lord by worshipping the world. So what's devotion? This is another way in which devotion is expressed. So Bhagwan is formless, nameless. So how to worship him? Well, worship what he created. So something like, if it's God's job to look after the world, which many of us think it is, it's God's job to look after the world and all of us, then how to worship God? Help him do his job. Worshipping is helping him do his job. So then I have to look after the world and the people in it. That's devotion. The other way of seeing it is God doesn't have a name and form, but God is every name and every form. So how to worship him? In every name and in every form, which means in every person I meet. So if I want to worship, I have to worship him in all forms that I come across. So whichever way you look at it, basically, I have to be nice to people. Why? Because that's what devotion is. That's what love is. So those were the 4 main points of this chapter. He actually covered quite a bit in this chapter. Lots of philosophical concepts, which he summarized and alluded to, which hopefully I have done enough justice to. Any questions?
Hariam Swamiji, just one question. With the relationships with God, can they change over time?
Yeah. They can. They can. Sometimes they change because devotees get angry. And then they can't connect to God with that relationship anymore. Devotees getting angry is a very common phenomenon that happens. Yeah, so it's like, I'm not listening to you anymore. So it can start off being as a parent, but now I don't like you. So then it will become below. And then often what happens is even the Ishta Devata changes. But maybe the Ishta Devata doesn't change and just the relationship changes. As long as it's okay. It doesn't matter which relationship it is because it's love that matters. Yeah. Yes.
Swamini Ji, can I ask a question, please? It's I've heard in sort of spiritual sort of philosophies that God is described or goddess is described as love itself. So like God is love itself. So in that case, how does that mean? So how can you love itself? Kind of almost seems a little contradictory. Just shine some light. Thank you for your.
But that's what we're doing. We're loving love because that's what we all are, and there's nothing else. And we love being loved by other people. We love being loved. And sometimes people love loving, and they fall in love with the idea of loving. Actually, not the person at all. We're doing it all the time. We loving love.
Thank you, Jai Krishna.
People are just an excuse. Because, we're not these people we think we are. We are love. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukkha bhavet, asato ma satgamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.